There are billions of transitional forms. But this is Ray's trick. He suddenly says, oh, no, that's not a transitional form. This is just something God created to amuse himself. And he says, look at the kangaroo. It's just a big mouse with a pocket. Actually, no. This is important. I'm sorry, I may be snippety about this. But the kangaroo isn't just a big mouse. Kangaroos are marsupials. Mice are rodents. And the two are about as closely related as Ray is to a penguin.
That's your sense of humour yet to evolve.
Alright, we've got anything else?
Evolution in there.
Hang on, mate, hang on. Yeah, up here. Yep, you.
Sam, take it back to the start of, away from evolution and all that stuff, what you're saying at the very start, about how there is no piece of evidence to prove that God exists, the Christian God. So you would just prove that evidence that millions have had, millions have heard his voice, millions have seen visions, and yet you would disprove that, and you only need one witness in a court to believe.
That's a trick question.
Not really, I think.
There is a Hindu guru called Satai Sai Baba who interestingly claims to be born of a virgin and claims to have magical powers, and is quite well documented at being able to levitate. He claims to have risen from the dead at one point. And he's had lotuses grow through his palms and has eaten knives. And a couple of years ago, they threw him a birthday party and 1 million people turned up. Now, on what grounds do you disregard their evidence?
Because
likewise, I would say that there are a billion Muslims.
Your question, would you please be quiet? Sorry. The devil uses and creates other images and whatever you call it to make us believe that there are other things out there. And obviously, sorry?
Hang on, mate. Hang on.
He could be, but I don't believe he's not. Are you calling me a liar because I've heard God's voice?
Yeah, that's cool, mate. Thanks.
No, I'm calling you
delusional.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks.
Sorry, I'd quite like to hear what else you had to say.
No, you can answer it, but
I didn't hear what you said.
Which part?
The part where you claim to have heard God's voice.
Yes.
I don't believe that.
You don't believe that he sounds delusional, that should go to a mental hospital?
I'm not saying it's necessarily a dangerous delusion. I don't think I'd lend you my card.
I have a question for Sam. Hi. You said that you didn't believe a word of the Bible, and I was just wondering how much research you've done as to the historical relevance of the Bible. And actually, the Bible is the most historically accurate book in the ancient world. Just a second, I have a few more things to say, please. And there's over 5,000 manuscripts, Greek manuscripts of the New Testament from the 1st to the 15th centuries, which is so much more than any other manuscript or any other ancient document. If you compile the writings of the early church fathers from the first first 4 centuries, you can recreate the New Testament with the exception of 11 verses. Also, archaeology. There's over 25,000 sites that all support evidence of the Bible, and there hasn't been a finding that has said anything otherwise of what the Bible said. And I was just wondering how you respond to that.
Firstly, saying that there are 15,000 copies of something doesn't make what the copies are true, nor does it provide a lineage of what it came from, nor is it really in any sense proof. The Secret sold 50 million copies. Would you be at all impressed if I said, there are 50 million copies of The Secret? How can you not believe it? As for archaeological evidence, no, there simply isn't. The closest they can get is there are towns vaguely where the Old Testament said there might be. And a lot of the Bible has been fairly unanimously disproven. Israeli archaeologists who admitted that they were going through the Sinai Desert looking for what they called the receipt for the Holy Land, searched for 40 years to find any evidence of the Exodus narrative, and finally conceded that they couldn't find a word of it. They couldn't find a single solitary thing.
There is a certain process for proving document authenticity, and the Bible, without a doubt, is the most historically reliable document. And that's coming not from just Christian, that's coming from scientists.
No. Where did you get this argument from?
You can do your research and look up this evidence.
But
yourself.
and if something is a forgery and it's been copied 15,000 times, that doesn't make it less of a forgery.
Even the writings of Plato, the writings
No,
of
the
Caesar.
writings of Plato, the only non-biblical even mention of Jesus. Bugger.
There's a lot of
There's
non-religious.
one line in Josephus that there is a Jewish Messiah who's causing lots of problems in Palestine. That is the only non-biblical reference to Jesus.
There is more evidence that Jesus existed than Caesar.
Hang on.
Yeah, okay. But let's consider the claims of Caesar.
Why?
Because, well, okay, Caesar was a god, but technically he was elected god by the Senate. But is there anyone here who believes Caesar was a god? The question isn't whether Jesus existed. Personally, I doubt that he existed. My theory is that there were 3 or 4 messianic lunatics and they kind of got it amalgamated into one.
Okay, let's finish it there. Up on the left-hand side. Thank you. We've got time for 2 more questions. Yep, thank you.
My question to you is, are you prepared to die for what you have stood up for today? Because looking at the early church fathers and the disciples, a lot of them were martyred for what they believed in. And to me, that speaks of something that they believed in so much they were willing to sacrifice their lives for it. Now, my question to you is, would you be prepared to do the same with what you've stood up for?
Yes, I would. If suddenly the parties of God took over the world and they said my choice was either to repent or burn, I would choose burn.
Okay, yeah, in the middle. Cheers, mate.
Just the road. Did you say other religions work righteous? Work righteous. Yeah. How does that, since all the other religions are work righteous, how does that prove that your religion is correct?
Good question, because it's the only one that deals with that problem.
Well, all the other ones can deal with your problem as well.
No, the problem of having sinned against God, the problem of those commandments accusing us.
And also, why were angels created?
Excuse me?
Angels?
Yeah. Why were they created?
Yeah.
The ministering spirits of God, the Bible says.
And what do they do though?
They minister for God.
Yeah, I mean, if it's all like powerful, why would you need to create like 4 beings to like minister stuff to people themselves?
Guys, I think we're going to have to wrap it up there, but I'm sure if you can come down and have a chat to afterwards, or I'm not sure. Yeah, so for you.